What was the most ridiculous thing you got in trouble for at school? It was PJ day. We were washing our hands for lunch. I accidentally got a little water on another kid's sleeve. Teacher flips out how I ruined the kid's expensive pajamas. The kid didn't even care. Did she think they were dry clean only pajamas? Whatever the case, it made waves. Reading a book. Apparently the head of history found me sitting on a bench reading across from her office window, intimidating. Ooh, this reminds me that I got in trouble for holding a book. It was a book for adults, so that's probably why I got in trouble. But still, I was upset. I finally started to like books, and they said not today. The book wasn't even inappropriate. What book was it? Filing Taxes for Dummies. Ah, that explains it. How dare she try to learn something useful in school grounds? Algebra teacher yelled at me for asking for help. He told me, don't ask me, ask your partner first. Then I turned around and asked my partner for help. He then yelled me at again, don't ask her. If you need help, ask me. This just confuses me. What was even going through that teacher's head? An overwhelming amount of nothing. In 3rd grade I got 10% taken off one of my tests for spelling my name wrong. When I went to go tell the teacher I knew how to spell my name, she sent me to the principal for smarting off. Yeah, I know how to spell my own name. This happened to me too. My parents wanted my name to be unique and went with an extremely uncommon spelling on top of a rare name. I didn't get sent to the principal, but my 1st grade teacher called a parent-teacher conference to impress upon my parents that I refused to spell my name correctly, and I had a shitty attitude because I 100% knew my name's spelling and I loved it, and I was frustrated with this dumb witch of a teacher who seemed to hate me for some reason. My mom was furious and chewed my teacher out for making her leave work early for something so stupid. Shockingly, that incident did not make my teacher like me more. Washing my hands wrong. My kindergarten teacher didn't like that I flicked excess water off my hands before reaching for the soap. She kept me there for a while until she finally gave up on me. Psycho. My pre-K teacher yelled at me for yawning after waking up from nap hour. She said sleep isn't supposed to make you yawn. I saw a dust devil for the first time and said, what the? I got in trouble for it. The teacher said you cold said a bad word, but I didn't. Get over it. I wolder say okay then FCKU. I was in kindergarten. Wolder added to the shock factor Mayo. Teacher underscore name. Will remember that. I doodled on my jeans in 10th grade and the assistant principal literally pulled me out of class and called my aunt to come get me. When she got there, he just started going off and pointing to me with look at what she did. My aunt just rolled her eyes and said she's 15. I don't know what you expected. Oh man. I forgot about art jeans. I had a pair that me and all my friends drew all over in Sharpie and pens. They were awesome. I wore them until they literally fell apart. You guys used jeans? I had a bunch of Sharpies and let my friends just draw on my arms. Me too. They just grab whatever's closest and draw something up my arm. It usually end up being almost a complete sleeve. Needing to use the restroom. Some teachers are straight crazy. Can I go to the bathroom? May I go to the bathroom? No, because I want to go. There was a teacher that picked on this boy because he couldn't speak proper English, and she would always say it's May when he asked to go to the restroom. She did this on April 30th, and one of my friends said actually it's still April. I loved it. Holy yes, I had to read that 3 times, but I get it LMAO. Not putting my jacket and backpack in my locker. All of my classes were on the 1st floor and one end of the building. My assigned locker was on the 2nd floor and in the furthest corner from my classes. The administrators refused to move my locker, so pretty much every day this one teacher would write me up, and I got a couple in school suspension for it. Finally, after a few meetings, I got the principal involved and she essentially told the teacher to leave me alone. My school only had lockers for pen. We were assigned alphabetically and I was the last on my locker row. So I 100% knew no one was below/next to me, which meant the big locker would always be vacant unless I was using it. The system was arranged so that everyone used small lockers for gym clothes/deodorant until their pep period, when they'd use the big locker next to their small one for their backpacks or whatever. so I just always kept my stuff in the big locker, which only I was ever going to use. Got found out. Had to spend 4 hours in detention on a Saturday and had a referral on my record, which was like a step or two away from suspension. What the actual hell? I wasn't even warned. Just showed up to pay one day and my locker had been emptied. Parents met with the principal and everything, but they wouldn't reverse it. Was the first and only time I'd ever gotten into trouble, and I was about to start applying for colleges, so I was pissed. Went to a new school for a few months in high school. Every student had to have an ID badge around their neck, visible at all times. If you got caught without your ID for whatever reason, you get detention. However, you could get a temp ID from the office for the day. Forgot my ID at home one day, but didn't notice till after first period. So not wanting to risk getting caught by a teacher, I went to the office before second period to get a temp. The secretary said it was very responsible to get a temp instead of trying to be sneaky about it for the day. Then in the very next second she wrote me out a detention slip for not having my badge all throughout first period and breaking the rules. Never understood that rule. Looking back, I honestly think it was just a skeezy trap to get students to turn themselves in for some dumb reason. Public school is asinine. I had the temporary ID template in high school. Could make my own temp IDs if I wanted to. We had a girls entrance and a boys entrance at my secondary modern school, UK. In 1972, I was 12 and proud of the result of my first visit to a proper grown-up hairdresser's, what we now call a mullet, but back then was known as a feather cut, and was extremely fashionable for both boys and girls at the time. I was in the crowd going through the door when a teacher roared, "You boy, what do you think you're doing?" Being very much a girl, I didn't take any notice until I felt a hand of impending doom on my shoulder. It was my own form teacher who didn't recognize me without my waist-length ponytail. What is the point of gendered entrances? Girls have cooties. For rolling my eyes, teacher shouted at me in front of the whole class. I didn't roll my eyes. My cousin is a goof, and while his face is nicely proportioned, his eyes are a little large, and he has very expressive eyebrows. His teacher once called my aunt to complain about the faces he makes at her. My aunt's response was, "Don't look at him." Two things: getting bullied and trying to get help from staff, and yelling at a guest teacher because they wouldn't let me go to the bathroom. So I announced to the class that I was bleeding from my V. One of my classmates wanted to go to the bathroom, but she ran out of passes. We have these things that limit how many times you can leave the classroom per semester. Around like 10 times, I think. The office calling for you and stuff like that doesn't count. So she just told the teacher she was bleeding through and was so fucking proud of herself when she came back. It took me a minute to realize what she was talking about. Same. I know a lot of people start late, but everybody ain't everybody. I think our passes were 2 a week. Utter trash. They expect you to pee in between classes. We started stealing the homeroom teacher's hall pass booklet. Everything about the US school system is broken. Seems the main curriculum is teaching subservience. 2 months into the first grade, I got suspended for lightly touching the arm of the teacher. This wasn't the first time I got in trouble with her. She was very strict, and I grew up with my rather laid-back mother, and I've been to a, let's call it, hippie kindergarten. So she was my first real authority person. We were standing outside at the classroom door. There was a lot of noise and I wanted to tell her something, but she did not listen. I do not remember what it was. So I touched her arm lightly to get her attention. I got suspended, and the school janitor watched me until my mother picked me up. I did switch schools after that to a much more understanding and patient teacher. This reminds me of 5th grade. The math teacher was talking to the other teachers while I was walking down the hall as a punishment. Well, I normally sleep at this time, and I was super sleepy. I had my head down as I walked, and guess who was in front of me? In short, I got 3 days of ice. I need more context. Your punishment was walking down the hall? For what? And was this taking place at 6 AM? Like, what time during the day were you normally sleeping as a 5th grader that this punishment was instead taking place? One time I was talking about how I went hunting with my dad over the weekend and the school made me talk to a counselor about it. I had to talk to our school counselor a lot. A kid I didn't like got into a lot of little riffs with me. For some reason they latched onto my parents getting a divorce and me living with my dad for my bad behavior. That kid was just a D and my parents getting divorced was a great decision. I never knew why that was so hard to believe. Stupid lady with her giant fake shiny nose. My aunt was a high school counselor. She was certain that I shaved my head when I was 14 because my parents were divorcing. I'm almost 40 and my hair has been longer than 1.5 inches exactly one time since then. It's always funny when people think something is just a phase, but then the phase never ends.